So I'm here with Amanda Hollinger, who's standing for Director of Student Development and Activities. You say in your manifesto that you want to advertise societies through the Societies portal, rather than, and quoting you, focusing publicity on Facebook. Do you not think that it's much better to advertise through something that 99% of students already use rather than kind of reinvent the wheel?
I actually believe that it was students currently use Facebook, but they should as well use the Union because it's a central hub, and that's our intention, is to use the Union, you know, as the main focus, the main area for people to find all of the information about societies, because, you know, there are students that don't have social media, so they can't access things on Facebook, and while that is perfect for the 99% of us that are glued to our phones and glued to Facebook on our phones and on our computers, there are some people that are unintentionally left out because of that. And, you know,
But societies already send emails.
Societies send the emails, but it's not regular for most societies. It's very society by society basis. I get emails from the Debate Society every week, and I get emails from the Shire maybe once a month. It's things like that. While that works for them, and that's fine, again, not everybody checks their emails. The Union Society portal, in my opinion, is a really great way of giving the information for people to access it on their own time. Let's say you don't sign up for the mailing list at the Freshers Fair because, you know, you're too nervous to go, or you didn't think that you wanted to go to that society, but then later in the year you decide, you know what, I really want to try this society, but you're too scared to send them an email to get on the mailing list. There are some people that are like that, and they want to get involved, but they're not sure how, and they're scared of making a fool of themselves. This is a really great way of giving them that information without putting them at ill ease. It's giving them that opportunity to access this information about societies, to see what's going on, and to be able to attend an event without putting all that pressure on them to ask to sign up.
But won't it be putting more bureaucracy and more pressure on society presidents? I know, as someone that's been a president myself of a society, that it's much better to focus on events and things rather than the bureaucracy of the union, etc.
I wouldn't say that it actually is too much bureaucracy. I was the communications secretary for the Debate Society last year, and so I was the one in charge of making all the Facebook events, sending out emails, making sure everybody knew about what our events were. And I got into a system where, you know, I was very efficient with how I publicized our events, and I think that's the same thing with what the union can do. After you make a Facebook event and after you send out the email, you just update the union, so that the page in your society portal, saying this is what we're doing, here are the latest minutes, and it's another update that you do on Facebook that would take another 5 minutes. So I honestly don't think it would be that much of an issue, that much of an extra commitment, but it would be very beneficial for those on the receiving end of those benefits.
So moving on in your manifesto, you say that you want mental health first aid training for society presidents.
Yes.
Wellbeing comes under the DoRep's remit. Have you discussed this with any of the DoRep candidates?
I have discussed this with the former DoRep, and I have discussed this with the current, the current DoRep, as well as the current wellbeing officer, to wonder about the logistics of this. I have always said that, you know, the DoRep does some very wonderful things, has some very wonderful policies, but in order to expand that scope and be able to expand the reach of those wonderful policies, I want to introduce them on some level to the societies that would be under the DoSDA's remit. So I have looked into policies, I have looked into programs, training through SSC training happens for the new officers every April. I've looked into possibilities of expanding that, in addition to the more bureaucratic training that they do, to include this mental health first aid training, to include leadership training that you could get at the School of Business. I've spoken, the School of Management I should say, I've spoken with professors and organizers within the School of Management to kind of figure out a good way that would work for society leaders in order for them to learn at the beginning of their presidency. And I've also looked at ways that you can incorporate the well-being officer's position within the societies.
So in your manifesto you talk about paying for this and that it's going to be really expensive, but you give several options, but you don't actually commit to any of these.
What I wanted to explain there is that I have looked at a variety of options, and given that, and if I do win the DoSDA position, I have no official authority to follow any single one of these policies, and until I have the authority to do so. So I've tried to give various options to show the directions that people could take, that I could take if I were to get the DoSDA position.
And how much are we talking here?
Yeah, well, the mental health first aid training that happened this during first semester for, I believe it was 16 people, was £800. £800 for 16 people. It's kind of a lot of money, especially when you want to expand that to all the society presidents and all the SSE officers. I understand that that's probably, that's a very large portion of the DoSDA's budget, and that's a very large portion of money for the union to dedicate to this cause, especially when it's the first year this is being really truly presented as a main platform policy. Another option is to work with Fife Council and Healthy Fife to develop some sort of agreement with allowing student representatives such as society presidents, SSE officers, to enroll in their free programs that they have on a 2-day week. They have various times throughout the year. I believe it's 4 classes that they have. They're 2-day sessions, and they're September, October, March, and January, I believe is the 4th one. And the thing with those is that those are free. Any money that is paid is just for transportation costs to get there and possibly accommodation if you stay overnight rather than traveling each day. And that would be something that could feasibly be paid out of the DoSDA's budget rather than paying for this course that would then be in-house. A third option is to pay for teacher training for one of our permanent staff members, Ian Couples being the prime example. I have emailed him. We have not yet spoken face-to-face on this, but he already is so involved in so much of the training for students such as condom reps that this is something that could be very feasible, and that would cost a one-time training fee of £1,360, and he would then have to go through, some training, and it would be unfortunately a time commitment for him. But if he's willing to go through it, or if any member of permanent staff is willing to go through it, it's something that would incredibly cut costs in years to come. So that is what I would like to commit to. But of course, I don't have the authority to commit onto any single policy.
Something that wasn't in your manifesto was your experience,
yes,
which a lot of people do include.
That's true. I view my manifesto as something that is very policy oriented, and then my experience comes in a separate document. I can very well provide that. I can run through that right now if you'd like me to.
But please do.
Okay, well, I'm currently the Big Top Ball coordinator for the Charities campaign, so that means I oversee my own subcommittee that organizes the circus theme ball that's coming up. I'm going to prevent myself from doing a shameless plug like I normally would on publicity, but that is something that's very near and dear to my heart. It's for the Charities campaign, so of course it runs all that money. I was on the Big Top Ball committee as the marketing person the year prior. So I have a lot of charities subcommittee experience, and I've seen how that works. I've also worked for a year, as I mentioned previously, as the communications secretary, again for the Union Debating Society. So I have subcommittee experience through that. I've worked on STAR as a producer for a radio show, as well as a news sub-editor, so helping to put out the news once a week.
But you've never been on the SRC or SSC?
No, and I've actually never been on the SRC and SSC, and I do acknowledge that that is something that most candidates do tend to have as experience. I feel that I still have a lot of experience through the SSC and seeing how things are run, that having this technical bureaucratic experience is not something that is a detriment to me. Of course, it is a perk to the other candidates, and I'm not going to deny them that, but I would not feel that not having SRC or having sat on the SRC or having sat as an official position on the SSC is a detriment to me, because I still have seen how various subcommittees work, how various things are run within societies. I've seen programs such as, the Debate Society last year had a significant change to its constitution. I saw how that went through the SRC, the SSC. I saw how that worked with our committee, and so I have the experience, just not on the face-to-face level.
So something you also don't mention in your
Yes.
manifesto, sorry to go on about this,
No,
but
it's fine.
we've got this wonderful new society space, but you don't really talk about how you're going to utilise that more
Of
than
course.
it's already being used.
Well, I think the way it's being utilized is absolutely phenomenal because it's so new. No one really understands. It's unfortunate because no one is quite used to the fact that they have all this wonderful society space yet. Faye has been absolutely wonderful with trying to get more people involved in the society space, utilizing it. A lot of subcommittees already use it. I know the Debate Society basically books up this entire top floor on Wednesdays. And so it's one of those things that I feel is more one of those things that comes in time. Next year's societies will realize the wonderful space that we have, realize the wonderful opportunities we have, because everybody is still on this, we're in development mode, we can't go to the union for anything. However, now that we're getting out of redevelopment, now that everybody is starting to realize that we have all of this wonderful space, this is something that people will generally want to utilize the space to its fullest potential because it is so wonderful. It is so, like, there's so much space and there's so much opportunity for its use now. So I don't think that's something that I need to push people to use the space, because I feel like once they're aware of its existence, which again is something that comes through time, but then also just basic publicity of the fact that we have union space, is something that they will then themselves do. They don't need me to push them to use this great space.
Finally, you talk about revitalizing the Careers Launch Conference.
Yes.
Now, several DoSDAs have tried to do this.
Yes.
Why do you think you can make any changes to that?
Well, as I mentioned in my manifesto, I'm no stranger to a year-long project. Like I mentioned in the manifesto, I have, as the Big Top Ball director, I have been working on this project since literally the day after I was given this position. I went through the application process. I got the call from Kyle being like, "Would you like the job?" And I was like, "Oh yes, please." The next day, I was contacting vendors. I was making a handover plan. I was on my laptop. I have a 30-page document for a handover of everything that I've done this year and everything that should be done when, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's one of those things that if you can police yourself to work on it every day, every week, and keep yourself focused and busy on it.
So do you think the other DoSDAs haven't been doing that with this?
And that's not something that I'm saying. What I'm saying is that from day one, there's a lot of potential to get a lot of work done. Faye herself told me that when the term starts, I need to be prepared to just be mostly focused on societies because they will take up the majority of your time. And as a result of that, she wishes that she had gotten more done in the beginning of the term. Knowing that and knowing that I can accomplish that, I truly feel that I could bring the time and effort required to make this careers launch such a success. And honestly, the fact that it didn't happen this year is nothing. It's nothing to do with Faye. What it is it's entirely to do with the timing of it, the fact that it didn't get enough publicity, and it's just with more time and more effort, it definitely can be the success that I know that she wants, and that I know that Kelsey wanted as well.
Well, Amanda Hollinger, thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you very much for having me.